Hey, welcome back, band family. Let's start out by warming up together. At the very beginning of our practicing, we need to make sure we're sitting correctly. And that means sitting on the edge of the chair, sitting tall, left foot flat, right foot back. So if you haven't already sat like that, go ahead and fix that now. For today's lesson video, you're going to need a mirror and a mouthpiece to begin with, okay? Don't forget too that when you open up your case, you're going to want to make sure that the lid is on top. Usually the handle of most cases is not on the lid. So as you set the case flat on the floor, make sure the handle is closest to the ground facing you and the lid will be right on top. So now that we have our mirror and our mouthpiece, we're ready to begin. Let's review how we set our face. We're going to use the M face when we play trumpet, and that's the face we make when we say the letter M. Let's double check in the mirror that we know what that looks like. M. Next up, we're going to do the air to sound exercise that we learned in our lesson video last week. If you recall, this was the exercise where we blow air through the mouthpiece, and then halfway through, we'll gently touch our lips together, which will produce a sound. Or in the case of a trumpet, it'll be a buzz. When you hold the mouthpiece, we're going to hold it at the bottom of the shank with our thumb and first two fingers. And this should be in your right hand. Remember that this is your right hand, right? So right hand, thumb and two fingers right at the bottom. As I bring the mouthpiece to me, my head remains level to the ground. Make sure your chin doesn't come down. And this comes straight in like this. Don't go to the mouthpiece because, hey, you're playing the trumpet. It's not playing you. So go ahead and get your mirror ready, mouthpiece ready. We're going to bring it straight in and do the air to buzz exercise. This is a great exercise to practice every day, whether you're playing along with the lesson video or just practicing on your own. The air to buzz exercise gives you a lot of control over just how much pressure you need on the lips to get that buzz sound. Next up, let's play our next exercise, which is the instant sound or instant buzz exercise. This is a lot like air to sound, except that we start buzzing immediately as soon as we start blowing. When we do our instant sound exercise or instant buzz, it's basically the same thing as those other exercises that I showed you, which are the high jets and the low jets. The idea is that we want to make that note sound as long as possible, and it needs to be very consistent and steady. We want to make sure that that sound continues, that it doesn't stop and start, or that it doesn't go up and down. Just like a jet flying overhead, you want to maintain that steady altitude. You don't want to go up and down, and you don't want your jet engine to stop in the middle of the flight. So it's a great thing to practice every day. To get that high jet sound, that higher pitch, we want to think about firming up our corners. But to find those corners, we can do another exercise where we control the puffing of our cheeks. You might recall that in our last lesson, I mentioned that if your cheeks puff out, that's not a good thing. And to fix it, get in front of a mirror and simply bring your cheeks in using the muscles in the corners. Let's try that right now. Go ahead and do the puffed cheeks, which is incorrect. Fix it using the muscles and your corners to bring the cheeks in. Sometimes students try to like suck in air like that to fix the puffed cheeks. That doesn't work. We need to be blowing air as we play the trumpet, not sucking air in. So don't suck in air to bring the cheeks in. Use your muscles, okay? Let's try that right now. Puffed cheeks, bringing them in. So you might have noticed that as I fixed that problem of the puffed cheeks by firming up the corners of my mouth, the pitch also went up as well. And we can use that knowledge to help us get the highest notes possible as we do our high jet exercise. Just by firming up those corners, we're going to get a higher note. In addition to that, we can also change our tongue voicing. You might remember this from our last lesson video where I talked about the position of your tongue. It can affect the pitch you get. You can get a higher note or a lower note simply by using a different tongue shape. If your tongue is in the same position that you'd use if you were saying E, you're going to get a higher note because that E tongue position is higher and it helps you get the higher note. If you instead were to put your tongue like you're saying ah, you'd get a lower note. But we're going to try a high jet right now. So firm up the corners and think E with the tongue. It's going to help. Next up, let's try a low jet. To do this, we're going to relax our corners. Not so much that our cheeks puff out, but pretty relaxed. In addition, we're also going to drop our tongue like we're saying ah. Think about making your jaw actually relax and drop down a little bit. That can help as well. So here is the ah tongue, relaxed corners, low jet. Check yourself. Are you sitting tall on the edge of the chair, left foot flat, right foot back? Hopefully you are. That low jet sound right there, I was able to achieve by relaxing the corners and dropping my tongue down. We can go from the high jets to the low jets right from one to the next and get our last exercise, which is called dropping bombs. I'm going to think with my tongue, T-ya, and by dropping my tongue down, the note is also going to go down low as well. I'm going to start out by firming up my corners to try to get as high a note as possible in the beginning, and then as I relax them and drop my tongue, the note will go lower. So with my corners and my tongue, I'm thinking T-ya, and it's going to help me go from high to low. At the end, I'm going to do an explosion sound. As you join me, feel free to do that explosion sound as well. How did you do? These buzzing exercises, the air to sound, instant sound, high jets, low jets, dropping bombs, these are the single most important thing you can be doing right now to develop a great foundation for your playing. So make sure you try this a little bit every day because, hey, we're building muscle. So if you do it every day, you'll get stronger. Next up, let's learn how to hold the trumpet correctly. As you pull the trumpet out of the case, you'll notice that there are 3 valves on top. Our left hand holds all the weight of the instrument and it grabs those 3 valves. It's kind of like you're grabbing a can of soda, and you'll do the same thing with your left hand. It's always the left hand, and your trumpet weight is all held in that left hand. Your left thumb is going to go around this first valve. Your other 4 fingers are all going to wrap around that 3rd valve. You'll notice that most trumpets have a ring right here on this valve slide. Your ring finger is going to go through that slide ring right there. My first and second fingers, my index and middle finger, are wrapped around that 3rd valve. My 3rd finger on my left hand is in the ring. And my pinky, it goes right alongside that ring finger. So all 4 of these fingers are wrapped just like that, thumb on that side. And this is where all the weight is. To assemble the trumpet, there's only 2 things that we need to do. First, we need to insert the mouthpiece into the lead pipe. To do that, I'm going to take the shank of the mouthpiece, set it into the lead pipe or the receiver, and I'm going to give a slight twist to the mouthpiece as I push. How much should I twist? About that far. Watch again. I'll do it sideways. You should do it this way so you don't drop anything, but so you can see it, I'll do it sideways. I place the mouthpiece into the mouthpiece receiver, also known as the lead pipe, and then as I push it, I'm going to give it a slight twist. Whoop, just that much. I twisted it about that much. You can actually twist either direction. Just by twisting and pushing, it helps secure it in position so that the trumpet mouthpiece doesn't fall out of the instrument. The second part of our assembly is we need to adjust the main tuning slide. So this main tuning slide right here needs to be out about that far. Now your main tuning slide might look different than mine, that's okay, but there needs to be a small amount of space between the slide and the main trumpet body. This is correct. If you push it all the way in so there's no gap right there, that's incorrect. It's not going to sound quite right. Similarly, if you pull it out really, really far, that's not going to sound right either. It needs to be out about, I don't know, maybe probably about 1/4 of an inch, just like that. The reason that main tuning slide needs to be pulled out 1/4 of an inch is because it adjusts for the temperature of the air inside the trumpet. This gets a little bit complicated, but the idea is that if there's hot air inside the trumpet, like if you're playing outside on a hot summer day, or if there's cold air in the trumpet, like if you're playing on a really cold day, that will change how high or how low the note will come out. Not a lot, but a little bit. Think about like helium makes your voice high. Hot air would also make your voice higher a little bit, not much, but a little bit. It is noticeable in music though. So we can adjust this farther out or farther in to compensate for the temperature of the air inside the instrument. But hey, we're inside right now, it's room temperature, and this is the room temperature setting. Every day when you take your trumpet out, put the mouthpiece in the lead pipe and double check to make sure that your tuning slide's in the right spot. All right, let's play our very first note on the trumpet. Remember, all the weight of the trumpet is held in the left hand. The right hand does not support any of the weight. So to work on this, take your right hand, put it on your knee. By the way, is your left foot flat, right foot back? Are you sitting tall on the edge of the chair? Hopefully you are. You're going to bring your trumpet up into plain position. Keep your chin up. Bring it into your face and try that instant buzz exercise. How did you do? Were you able to get a sound? You'll notice that as I was playing that note, I brought the trumpet up level with my face, keeping my chin up. I brought the instrument in, I played a note, I brought it off my face, and then I brought it down. That's how we bring our trumpet up into plain position and then bring it down at the end. It goes up, in, play your note, out, down, every time. Let's try it again. See if you can reliably hit the center of your mouth as you bring this up into position, and try to make that note very steady and even. Hey, how did you do? It gets easier the more we do this. So every day, take a few minutes and try this exercise every day. You'll notice that the note that I played might be different than the note you played. First of all, I wasn't using any valves, so it's the note I played is what we call an open note. And there are several different open notes you might get. And again, those open notes are the ones with no valves at all. As a beginner, as a fifth grader, there's probably 3 different notes you're going to shoot for this year that are open notes, notes with no fingers. There's a low open note, a middle open note, and a high open note. I'm going to play each of these for you and see if you can hear the difference. Now these open notes, the low, middle, and high, all have names in music. See, each note we play has a letter name, an A, B, C, or D, for example. In this case, that low open note is called C. The middle open note is called G. And the high open note is, well, it's also called C. Well, that's kind of weird. The high open note and the low open note are both Cs. The difference is that lowest note is called a low C, and the higher note is, I guess we could call it a high C. At least it's higher of a C than the first one. And if it seems confusing, think about this. Sometimes in families, you might have a parent that has the same name as the child. So mom might be named Sally and her daughter might also be named Sally. Or maybe dad's named Billy and his son is named Billy. So this is not uncommon in families, and it's the same way with our trumpet notes as well. The highest open note we have so far is going to be the higher C, and the lowest open note is going to be a low C. I should probably warn you as well that these are the 3 open notes we're going to work on this year in 5th grade, but there's many, many, many more open notes above that higher C. So in 6th grade, 7th grade, and beyond, you're going to learn a lot more really, really high notes on trumpet, which is going to be pretty exciting. As you're working on these for the next several days, try to see if you can get at least 2 out of the 3 notes that are open notes. Try to get at least the middle and the low, or the middle and the high. And every beginning trumpet player is a little bit different as far as which ones are easiest. Most beginners would find that the low and middle open notes are the easiest of the 3. Some trumpet players, though, would find that the middle and the high open notes are the easier. So see if you can figure out the difference. We can actually do those same high and low jet exercises by playing, for example, the middle and the low open notes. Those are the trumpet versions of the high and low jets, or the high and the middle. To help you determine what note you're actually getting, use the Bandmate app. Make sure it's set to trumpet on top. You can click that little button right there and select trumpet. And then on that right-hand side, make sure that the little switch is set to the top setting. That's the flat setting, not the bottom one, which is the sharp. And then as you play a note, it will tell you if it's a C, a G, or a C. Let's try it out. Let's talk a little bit about the right hand. I'm going to show you 2 different things you can do with the right hand as we play trumpet. The first is steadying the trumpet while we're working on the exercises that we've already learned. So if you're having a difficult time supporting the weight of that instrument in our left hand and correctly hitting your mouth, what you can do is use your right hand to steady the instrument and help guide it in. Think about how you'd hold the mouthpiece for our mouthpiece buzzing exercises. Thumb and first 2 fingers down at the bottom of the shank. Same thing here. As you support the entire weight of the instrument with your left hand, you can use your thumb and two fingers just to help aim the mouthpiece so that it correctly hits your mouth. So that is one use of the right hand you can do this week. The second thing is I'm going to show you how to correctly position your right hand for playing trumpet. We're not going to use any of the valves, not this week. That's going to be in our next lesson. But for this week, I'll at least show you how to place your right hand so you can put it in the right spot. The most important part of the right hand position for it to be effective is the right hand thumb. You'd think it'd be the three fingers that operate the valve. No. We actually just need to make sure the thumb is in the right spot. So keep your right thumb perfectly straight, and with the very tip of the thumb, touch underneath this lead pipe here, right between the first and second valve casings. Just like this. Now don't go in so far that your thumb tip actually touches the metal of these valve casings. Have that thumb pointed in between the first two valve casings, but don't actually have it go so far in that it touches. While that thumb is straight and touching just like this, wrap the three fingers around on top and have the tips of your fingers touch the ends of the valves. The valve buttons is what we call those. So straight thumb here, three fingers on top, and that right pinky floats. It doesn't touch anything. It just floats in midair. You'll notice that if you do this correctly, you'll have a hand shape that looks like this. It looks like a C, or maybe like you're holding a tennis ball or a racquetball, and that's the position of the right hand. Now let's talk about that pinky for a second here. You will sometimes see adults, even professional trumpet players, that have bad habits with their right hand pinky. You can think of other examples too of adults that do the wrong thing. Maybe you have an uncle that doesn't wear a seatbelt. And just because an adult does something the wrong way doesn't mean you should too. Let's keep that pinky floating in midair. Here's why that's so important. As trumpet players, we're going to have fast notes. And for our fingers to move very, very quickly, we need to make sure that our pinky is free. If our pinky is locked into position somewhere else on the instrument, it's going to slow down our fingers. We don't want slow fingers, we want fast fingers. We also want to make sure that our thumb is right here. If you take your thumb and pinky and jam them into the instrument and help lift up that instrument, it's going to slow down those fingers. So we want to make sure that our hand is positioned like this so that our fingers can move very, very quickly. This week, I'm not going to have you use the valves at all. I'm going to cover that in next week's lesson. But if you would like, as a bonus thing to work on this week, if you'd like to work on correctly positioning your right hand, you certainly can do so. I'd encourage you to do it like this. As you're practicing, bring your instrument up into position, place the right hand here, bring it in, go out, take your right hand off, instrument down. I've noticed that students that put the right hand on here will keep all the weight in their left hand. If you have it down below and you start to put that right hand in, that's where students get into trouble and they start grabbing the instrument to help lift it up. Nope. All the weight is in the left hand, right hand just comes on top and touches down very lightly. So that's your goal for this week. This week you should be working on mouthpiece buzzing every single day to develop your strength. That includes air to sound, instant sound, high jets, low jets, and dropping bombs. Then put the instrument together and work on playing those same low jets and high jets, but on the instrument, trying to get two different notes, a high note and a low note. It could be the middle G and the low C, or the high C and the middle G. Try to get at least two different notes. If you can get three notes, even better. All these notes are going to be very long. Don't make the notes short. Do not stop the notes. Keep them as long and steady and even as you can. So work on this every day and you're going to get stronger and stronger. Until next time, go practice.